The Philippines is a country that has a history of strong women leading the populace, whether in war or in ruling the country. Despite our advances in these areas, when it comes to the workforce, many women are discriminated because of their gender. Many companies prefer to hire men than women for various reasons, thus the creation of the Magna Carta for women.
I'm Jimeno, 27 years old. I applied for a pharmaceutical company before 3 years ago as a medical representative. Hindi ko in-expect na they would treat me unprofessionally. I don't know if it was my gender at the time. So, ang nangyari was like, umabot na kami hanggang 4 candidates na lang kami. And then, I was the only girl at that time. What happened was like, I was expecting that the question would be professional enough and sana they would pertain or see my background because I really want that job. And then, the recruitment officer was asking me personal questions. I believe it was more kung emotionally capable ba ako because I'm a girl. Kung may mga things ba ako na kaya ko rin gawin katulad ng ginagawa ng mga guys. So, I think at the time, it was unfair because they were not really looking at my background and parang hindi nila inisip kung ano yung kaya kong i-offer. They were just thinking na because I'm a girl, whatever my status is, baka maka-apekto sa job ko. And parang feeling ko na-discriminate ako.
What are the provisions under the Magna Carta? What acts constitute as work discrimination against women? What are the penalties for companies that commit work discrimination? Good evening. You are watching Legal Help Desk on the Solar News channel. This show is about making the law work for you by giving legal advice on topics that matter to you. I'm Attorney Karen Jimeno.
And I'm Attorney Nepomuceno. Tonight, in continuation with the celebration of Women's Month, we'll be tackling on the issue of work discrimination. What you need to know when you are being discriminated from employment because of your gender, and what you need to do when your career is in jeopardy because of it.
Tonight, we will be discussing this with someone who is in charge of workers with special concerns, Ms. Maria Evelyn Manangan of the Department of Labor and Employment. Good evening, Ms. Manangan, Ms. Ev.
Ms. Ev, good evening. Welcome to Legal HD.
So first, let's talk about the case of Eriza. And Ms. Ev, what I want to know is, in her case, she felt discriminated, but of course, when you say discrimination, there's always a difference in opinion. Especially here, she felt discriminated because of the questions being asked of her. For women who feel discriminated, where can they go to in the Department of Labor? At least someone to tell them kung meron ba talagang case of discrimination that would hold up with the Department of Labor.
Yeah. In the DOL, we have what we call Public Assistance Complaints and Investigation Unit. So you can approach it, the office. In every regional office, we have desks. So they can be assisted if there are problems. And it operates through a referral system. So it can also go to our office, and we can also provide referrals to other partner agencies.
Okay. The referrals are lawyers and not necessarily lawyers?
Could be lawyers.
Okay. Now, in this case, kay Elisa, no? That's the name of the case study. Do you think that she has a basis to file a case for work discrimination on the ground of the existing laws that are in place?
Yeah, because she wasn't hired yet, right?
Yeah, she wasn't hired yet.
Basically, she felt discriminated during the application process.
Yeah.
Our existing law under Article 135 talks of discrimination, but this conceives of a situation where the worker is already employed. So in this case, this is at the pre-hiring stage. So there might be problems when we make use of Article 135 as amended by RA 6725 of the Labor Code. However, if she suffered damages, that's a different story. She can always
go to court,
yes,
not the Department of Labor.
Yeah, if she was not handled properly, there was embarrassment.
Yeah, I guess,
like that.
For example, if she was applying for work and there was some kind of sexual innuendo by the hiring, hiring party, doon meron siyang case, but maybe not under work discrimination, but
that sounds like sexual harassment.
Sexual harassment.
All right, but I guess it's work related because she's trying to apply, no? Pero in this case, at least given the facts, walang kaso yung employer, or she wouldn't have a basis for filing a case on the basis of work discrimination.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, Ms. Ev, I also like to ask you about the Magna Carta for women, because this was past 2009. I think a lot of people don't even know that this exists. But with respect to the dole and workplace naman, what does the Magna Carta provide for women?
Yeah, of course, the Magna Carta of Women is a very comprehensive Bill of Rights covering the protection of women in all facets, not only employment, but also other aspects of political life, socio-cultural, and everything. So as far as the dole's area is concerned, the Magna Carta of Women, of course, refers back to already existing laws protecting women, such as the anti-sexual harassment law, violence against women, which talks about the 10-day parental leave for those who would like to file a case against their oppressors, or you call them partners. Or you can also, there are also, of course, new provisions under the Magna Carta of Women, which covers the special leave benefits for women who undergo surgery due to gynecological disorders.
Now, I'd like to ask, did the dole add any other office or sub-agency or help desk because of this new Magna Carta law, Magna Carta for women?
We have already in place our labor inspectorate. So if there are problems, they can always report to the nearest dole office within their area.
Now, going back lang to discrimination in the workplace, no? There is Republic Act 6725,
Yes.
but it essentially just amends specific provisions in the labor code, di ba? Regarding work discrimination. Can you elaborate the specific discrimination acts or the work discrimination acts in the law?
We have Article 135, that was the current law at that time in 1974, but this was amended sometime in 1989, I guess by Senator Shahani. The law under Article 135 just states that there should be equal pay for work of equal value for both men and women. Now, this has been expanded to other areas of discrimination. So, women will be protected from discrimination, against discrimination rather, in terms of promotion, study and scholarship grants, and also evaluation of their performance.
Right.
So these are new areas wherein women sometimes are deprived of opportunities of getting a scholarship just because they are
because they're
women.
Okay. Well, first, we will answer other questions from viewers, but I'd like to address Eriza, that based on your case, since she was not hired, it seems, no? Ms. Ev was advising that you might not be able to file directly with the Department of Labor because it concerns discrimination in the workplace, but you might be able to go to court, at least for filing damages if you think you suffered damages because you were discriminated and not getting this job. And now we have a few questions from our viewers. Let's answer them with the help of our guest, Ms. Ev. Our first question comes from Diana, and she asks, I'm a new graduate and I would like to know how my basic rights as a woman can be protected when hired for work. What are the things I should look for in the contracts? So I think kanina yun yung mga sinasabi ni Ms. Ev, that women, at least as a basic right, you're entitled to equal pay for equal work done by men as well. So dapat walang discrimination between men and women employees. But what other rights do you think that she have to look for in the employment contract?
What should be in the radar whenever they're checking out their contract? No?
Yeah, I think one important law now, which has recently been passed, is the night work for work, a new law for night workers. So even women, used to be kasi sa labor code, women were not allowed to work at night from 10 in the evening to 6 a.m. of the following day.
Okay.
Because of the Magna Carta of Women, certain provisions of the law have to be amended because we'll have to respond to the issue on discrimination because this has barred women from getting work.
Yeah, lalo
So-
na for
BPO.
call centers,
BPOs, yeah.
BPO companies.
If you're
no?
in the BPO, you are
Yes.
protected from being discriminated if you're pregnant because you're entitled to have an alternative work
Right, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lalo na kung hospital interns, di ba? Hanggang
Correct.
gabi, hanggang madaling araw.
Oh, that one you really have to work at night. Now, next question is from Julie, and she asks, I work for a BPO company, ayan, and I'm recently engaged to my longtime boyfriend. But I'm afraid of telling this to my superiors because a former colleague of mine was forced to resign when she got married. Now, are they allowed to do this? Should I still tell them about my present situation? I think there are two situations here. Her situation, whether they can be justified to I guess let her go, no, if she tells her boss about her relationship with her boyfriend, and yung situation ng friend niya who was fired because she got married.
Yes.
Now, are there provisions in the law? I know there are provisions in the law in specific provisions, no, in the labor code that don't allow that, or special law.
Yes, we have this under the labor code, which is stipulation against marriage. So you don't. It is unlawful if you would cite as a condition that a woman should not get married. So that is not allowed.
Yeah, and I think there's criminal liability, di ba?
Yes.
Meaning yung employers, if they do this, pwede pa sila makulong, right, Ms. Ev?
Yeah, we have Article 288 of the Labor Code for acts that are declared as unlawful.
So
you can invoke this.
So this law on prohibiting marriage as a condition by which you get fired. No? It's not limited lang purely to that. No? Like as a condition, you can't get married. But if you use it as a condition for them to be hired or not to be hired, is that also? In this case, for example, in the case of Eliza, Karina, if they said, "Are you planning to get married?" and she says, "Yes, I'm planning to get married soon," and because of that she wasn't hired, does she have a case?
In that case, a pre-hiring pa.
Oo, so hindi siguro under the Department of Labor. She has to go to court maybe, right?
Yeah. Siguro pwede natin i-try under the Magna Carta of Women.
Yes.
Kasi may bago ng batas eh. It's a comprehensive.
Yeah.
Kasi the current
But
law,
not under the labor code, I guess. No?
the current law is that parang as a continuation of your employment, as a condition of the continuation of employment, you will prevent her from getting married. Yun ang bawal, di ba? I see, all right.
Okay, we still have plenty to discuss. We'll take a short break. Legal Help Desk will return after these reminders. Ayan. You are still watching Legal Help Desk on the Solar News channel, and we are still joined by our guest, Ms. Evelyn Manangan of the Department of Labor. Thank you, Ms. Manangan, for being here.
All right, we have a few more questions from our viewers. Our next question comes from George, and she asks, so George is a lady, I'm a mother to a 6-year-old boy. My partner stopped supporting us late last year, and ever since I've been applying to many job vacancies. In one interview, I was asked about my relationship status. When I said single, the interviewer told me to define single. If it meant that I was single and had a child, I was taken aback by the question. Now, do companies have a legitimate concern of asking an employee or an interviewee if she is a single parent? Now, again, pre-employment situation. So, I guess there's no basis for a case, no?
No basis for a case. Kaya lang pag she gets into the job, and if she's not given this leave for called parental leave, then there might be problems in terms of violations.
Although I think, Rod, parang no case under the labor code again, but then if you feel that there's really damage to you and there's bad faith, then you can file a case for damages under the civil code with the regular courts, right?
Yes.
Right. It's probably a long shot to get, because again, normally it's by evidence, no? So if you don't have real evidence other than it's parang a he said, she said situation, you know? I don't know how a case like that can prosper, but what do you think? Is a civil case an option?
Possible, but I think there are so many existing bills right now which has not been passed as yet, and they cover the pre-employment situations where women complain of discrimination.
Okay.
So I think this has to be addressed to be sure that women indeed will be having full protection.
Yes.
Right.
Our next question comes from Leslie, and she asks us, my colleague and I have been noticing that our bosses have a different treatment towards our female employees. They are more inclined in growing the careers of their male employees than their female counterpart. Where can we report cases of work discrimination, and what are the steps we should do in filing that case? Ito na yung basically, at least workplace scenario na talaga, right?
Yeah.
So,
in
if they're noticing, I know it's very clear in the labor code that you have to treat your employees equally,
Fairly.
especially with respect to promotions. But where can they file directly with the Department of Labor?
Yeah, they can file with the regional offices having jurisdiction over their workplaces. So, kung NCR, go to Dole NCR.
Okay.
And they have to be
Pagka-
they have to be very specific in their complaint. But what kind of discrimination are you talking about? And maybe they have to. Do they have to be very specific in the allegation of discrimination?
They'll have to, so that they'll be able to come up with a conciliation case, perhaps, to make them know that they are violating. At times, the employers are not aware of that they are indeed violating. But when we have these conciliation procedures, they would be asked to comply, and definitely most of them would comply.
Well, now, Ms. Ev, if they go directly to the regional offices, do they have to bring any documents or a lawyer with them? What's a normal procedure?
They don't have to bring along a lawyer with them. We have our help desks. Our regional offices will have to entertain them. We also have field offices if they don't have if the regional office is not accessible to them.
Field offices are normally those outside NCR.
Even NCR has its own field offices, like one in Makati, another in Caloocan.
Okay.
Now, just curiously, the penalty for work discrimination is indicated in the labor code, no? And
Yes.
it does provide for possible jail time and imprisonment and,
Yes,
and fines, right? But in reality, though, does it reach that point, or normally you just you're able to fix things and conciliate between the employees and the employer?
I haven't heard that somebody has been jailed due to violations with respect to discrimination. But we have this classical case years ago with regard to those stewardess or flight attendants who were terminated by virtue of getting married. No? So there's a decided case on that. But I guess the labor code was not enforced that time, so they were just asked
To pay damages, or
Yes,
I
yes.
see. All right. Okay, we've got another question. This time coming from Mr. Villa, and he asks, "What about female employees who dressed inappropriately that distract other employees, including me as the employer? Our office has a dress code, and she has repeatedly violated this. What are my options as an employer?" So in this case, it's not really work discrimination, but I
It's
guess
more of the employer with an employee not following
The dress
company
code.
rules. Yes.
Oh.
But of course, we have certain rules of discipline also. There is a company policy that you have to adhere to if you're an employee. So there are certain rules whereby they can be disciplined after several notices if they still don't comply. I think we have also a dress code to follow. Even in the government service, we are supposed to follow a dress code also.
Now, I'd like to ask this. This is a curious question. It's obviously the laws on work discrimination apply to. It seems to imply a male employer discriminating a woman employee. But can there be a situation where the one that's being accused or the one that's being filed against is a female employer filing discriminating a woman? That's possible, right? It's not just a male employer, right? It's possible that
Yes, a female employee can discriminate.
a
another
female
woman.
employer can discriminate a female employee.
Yes.
That's possible.
That's possible. If you're the manager and you also say there's a stipulation against marriage, you'll be dismissed, then you're committing the same offense.
That's right. Okay, that's
Tsaka
quite
I don't think it's unheard na minsan yung mga babaeng employers, they can be very catty, or you know what I mean? Like they're actually less friendly to female employees, diba?
Yeah.
So maybe they view them as competition. I don't know, but I think that can happen. So I guess now let's have like maybe a recap for our viewers, especially with respect to our female viewers who are basically normally the victims of discrimination in the workplace. Do you find that this is always the case, na sila yung victims?
Ang women?
Oo.
Yes, that's what the literature points
Yeah,
out.
that's why you have the Magna Carta for women.
Yes, and we have ratified the Convention on the Elimination of all forms of discrimination against women.
But so first, for all the women out there, or basically all employees out there, know your rights. And one is that as women, you should be entitled to the same amount of pay for the same type of job that you do with men. And also, you should have the same opportunities for hiring and promotion, same as males. Yes.
Dapat yung mga benefits such as, not just limited to salaries. No? In other words, you can't be getting a less salary just because you're a woman and you have the same role as a man, no? But also for mga scholarships and mga training, those kind of benefits. If men, in other words, men cannot be favored with these benefits, no? The women should be able to have access to these benefits as well, right? And of course, there's also the laws regarding marriage, yung using marriage as an excuse to dismiss a woman
or having kids,
or having
right?
kids.
Because,
yun yung mga bawal na.
So some basic rights that women should have as employees would be maternity leave, and as mentioned by Ms. Ev, you have now that leave under the Magna Carta for women if you're going to undergo surgery because of any gynecological disorder, right? And also VAUSI leave. If you have to file a case for violence against you by a partner, then you can go on leave from work.
10 days yata yun, no? 10 days. Is that 10 days?
Yes, for the vow.
All right, for VAUSI.
Yes, and that's extendable.
Yes.
All
And if you feel discriminated, you can go to the Department of Labor. Ms. Ev, maybe you can share with them kung saan sila dapat pumunta.
And also, I'd like to add to that, we have also protection against dismissal when you are pregnant. I think we forgot to mention that.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's very important.
Yes,
If you take a maternity leave, they wouldn't take you in anymore because they're afraid that you'll be pregnant again.
Yes.
You are protected.
So hindi lang marriage but also pregnancy. You can't come up with a policy where you tell one of your lady employees na I'm gonna fire you in case you get pregnant. Bawal din yan.
Okay.
All right.
And if you feel discriminated, you can go to the regional offices of the Department of Labor. They have help desks that you can consult with if you feel discriminated. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. Let's take these last few minutes by giving a recap of what we have discussed, which we have already done. And we'd like to thank our guest, Ms. Evelyn Manangan.
Thank you, ma'am, for joining
much.
us.
You're welcome.
All right. And again, for next week, we'd like to thank you again. We hope you can join us again next week. Thank you again, Ms. Evelyn Manangan of the Department of Labor. I'm Rod Nepomuceno.
And I'm Attorney Karen Jimeno. Join us again next Monday as we talk about your legal rights on the issue of work benefits for women here on Legal Help Desk. Good night.
The recruitment officer was asking me personal questions. I believe it was more kung emotionally capable ba ako because I'm a girl. Kung may mga things ba ako na kaya ko rin gawin katulad ng ginagawa ng mga guys. So, I think at the time, it was unfair because they were not really looking at my background and parang hindi nila inisip kung ano yung kaya kong i-offer. They were just thinking na because I'm a girl, whatever my status is, baka maka-apekto sa job ko. And parang feeling ko, na-discriminate ako.
What are the provisions under the Magna Carta? What acts constitute as work discrimination against women? What are the penalties for companies that commit work discrimination? Ms. Ev, what I want to know is, in her case, she felt discriminated, but of course, when you say discrimination, there's always a difference in opinion. Especially here, she felt discriminated because of the questions being asked of her. For women who feel discriminated, where can they go to in the Department of Labor? At least someone to tell them kung meron ba talagang case of discrimination that would hold up with the Department of Labor.
Yeah. In the DOL, we have what we call Public Assistance Complaints and Investigation Unit. So you can approach it, the office. In every regional office, we have desks. So they can be assisted if there are problems. And it operates through a referral system. So it can also go to our office.
Good evening. You are watching Legal Help Desk on the Solar News channel. This show is about making the law work for you by giving legal advice on topics that matter to you. I'm Attorney Karen Jimeno.
And I'm Attorney Nepomuceno. Tonight, in continuation with the celebration of Women's Month, we'll be tackling on the issue of work discrimination. What you need to know when you are being discriminated from employment because of your gender, and what you need to do when your career is in jeopardy because of it.
Tonight, we will be discussing this with someone who is in charge of workers with special concerns, Ms. Maria Evelyn Manangan of the Department of Labor and Employment. Good evening, Ms. Manangan. Ms. Ev.
Ms. Ev, good
Yeah.
evening. Welcome to Legal HD.
So first, let's talk about the case of Eriza. And many companies prefer to hire men than women for various reasons. Thus, the creation of the Magna Carta for women.
I'm Eriza Mina, 27 years old. I applied for a pharmaceutical company before 3 years ago as a medical representative. Hindi ko in-expect na they would treat me unprofessionally. I don't know if it was my gender at the time. So, ang nangyari was like, umabot na kami hanggang 4 candidates na lang kami. And then, I was the only girl at that time. What happened was like, I was expecting that the question would be professional enough and sana they would pertain or see my background because I really want that job. And then,
The Philippines is a country that has a history of strong women leading the populace, whether in war or in ruling the country. Despite our advances in these areas, when it comes to the workforce, many women are discriminated because of their gender.